Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Kayfabe recap of the Kayfabe Central Podcast, episode 8 of the Kayfabe Recap. And today is a very special episode, a very layered episode, a stacked episode of the Kayfabe Recap. Because today I'm not alone. I'm your host, Josh, as always. But joining me today is the promoter and owner of Norfolk County Championship Wrestling. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Adam Martin. How's it going, man?
Not too bad, Josh. Not too bad. The weather is a little bit unfair today. We just got hit with a flurry and a little bit of a snow blizzard. Pretty typical weather here this time of the year up here in Canada and southern Ontario. But we got football on today. Playoffs are already in motion, which is great. And the world of professional wrestling is always keeping everyone on the edge of their seat, no matter what brand you're watching, on a global platform, national platform, or in my case, a lot of the independent platforms. So, lots to talk about. Excited to be on the show, and thank you very much for keeping in touch with me and thinking about me to share this afternoon with you. I'm highly looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Of course, we've talked quite a bit off air about NCCW, and it's really good to have you on here so we can have a full on conversation and just talk about the things that's going on in pro wrestling. Talk about NCCW. You are absolutely right. Over here where I'm at, the weather is terrible. Also, I'm witnessing a snowstorm outside as we're speaking, so it's a very, I want to say miserable day. The snow looks nice from inside, but when you step outside, it's a whole different ball game. So, I'm very comfortable inside watching the NFL playoffs.
Definitely. I'm in my Exodus Pro t-shirt, so if I were to go venture outside, I'd be bundling up as well. So, no, by all means, I prefer inside today as well.
Absolutely. So I'll skip the self promo and save that for the end of the podcast. Let's jump straight into it. I'll go into some questions that I have for you about NCCW. We can chat a little bit about that. So for people who might be hearing about NCCW for the first time, how would you describe what kind of promotion it is?
So great question. We are a family-friendly type of promotion and brand. We focus on a lot of in-ring and story development. Of course, we base ourselves being Norfolk County Championship Wrestling. Obviously, the name is a play on play of World Class Championship Wrestling, which goes back to the territory days. I think a lot of our mindset and a lot of you can call it creative and how we operate as a company and a brand and what we present to live to our audience is based off of the territory days versus a modern day product, which is more character based, more interactive in terms of sing-alongs and spot wrestling, I call it. But again, yeah, that's essentially the groundwork on how and what NCCW stands for and represents. It's a throwback to the territory days and what we present in not only in-ring talent, but we want our athletes to represent outside of the ring, leading up to each and every event that we present and put on.
What do you think makes NCCW stand out from other indie promotions right now?
We pride ourselves on the story development. A lot of people have told me specifically and personally that our brand seems very cinematic in terms of the investment there from a viewer standpoint. It keeps people on the edge of their seat to see what we're going to do next, and it's not typical just match by match, match per match type of events that we host. There is thought process into it, and we actually utilize personal development outside of the business and play those into what we have available to us in terms of in-ring action and our matchups that are booked. So, for example, if there's two people that have a feud outside of the business, we would like to capitalize on that and interject that into our product and presentation to make sure that it's maximized, and the viewers get the best of the best in what we can potentially offer. We know, wrestling is interpreted in many different ways, and that's the beauty of it. It is a true art form, but the art form that we like to present and the canvas that we like to paint is storyline based with great solid technical wrestling in ring.
Of course. So obviously, like Norfolk is a place that's very far from a lot of things. So if fans come out like drive a long way. When fans come to an NCCW show, what kind of talent or style should they expect to see at an NCCW show?
Well, we're actually before I jump into the talent I expect to see in the show that they're expected to see, we're actually like a neutral hub. So we're about a half hour, 40 minutes away from a semi-major city known as Brantford, Ontario.
Okay.
We are kind of in no man's land, no pun, for our next event. But we are a county that's made up of 6 or 7 different little towns.
Yeah.
And a lot of our land is utilized for farm development, crop harvesting, all that good stuff. It's the foundation of how Norfolk County was built and created. A lot of farmers settled here from the United States, utilized our land that is very beneficial for farmland. And, we are Ontario's garden. So it says it right on our welcome to Norfolk County sign as you drive into the beautiful community that we have. And then if you go west, southwest, I should say, you're about an hour away from London, which is a major city. And if you go past Brantford, your next city is going to be Hamilton. So we are a natural hub, and then Kitchener, Waterloo area north of us. So we're kind of like a middle point within southern Ontario. Yes, we are kind of a little bit out in the middle of nowhere, but it's very accessible within an hour's tops if you're looking at a major city to come this way. Now, in terms of people that aren't used to the show regularly and they are coming from outside of our amazing community, again, like I said, they're expecting, top tier talent from not only across Southern Ontario, the province itself, the country, but outside of the country as well, United States and around the globe, Australia being a key feature country that we have talent performing with us with. And of course, the in-ring, it's storyline based, but there's a reason behind it. And, it's very technical in-ring as well. I'm personally, again, like I said, wrestling can be interpreted in many different ways, can be enjoyed in many different ways, different styles, different presentations. I'm not so keen on a comedy style of in-ring wrestling, and that's okay if you are. But for me specifically, and what our audience is now telling us what they like is the in-ring ability to be technical. And of course, once in a while, if something gets to build to a point where it requires a little bit more than a normal one-on-one match, bring out some of the weaponry or the gimmicks, as we say, to settle a feud that needs to be settled the right way. So that's kind of what you're looking at if you're coming in from outside Norfolk County.
Absolutely. That's on me and my bad geography
No, 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 it's
because
okay.
I know where I am, I know Norfolk is a bit away from where I am. It's a few hours away. But if it's like close to like, Hamilton, like Brantford and all that, that's pretty accessible, I'd say. If fans want to go out to an indie show, then it's definitely very accessible there. Um
A lot of people actually mistaken us for Simcoe County, which is Barrie, and Lake Simcoe, which is northern Ontario to a certain degree, or a lot of people online that don't necessarily know where we are, or what we are doing, or anything like that. First time people that come across us think of Norfolk, Virginia. So you can get a variety of, so no need to apologize. More than happy to explain the geographical area that we're in, but of course, a lot of people do misinterpret where we are located on the map. So no worries at all, no sweat.
Fair enough. What's something you're excited about with NCCW going forward?
The continued growth. From our first year to current date, there's been a lot of growth in terms of the talent that we brought in. We've developed talent here to be recognized as local hero. Of course, we always have our villains as well that people love to hate. So that's one thing that, I'm really excited to see the direction of the people that have been with us since day one and where they go into 2026 and beyond. And of course, the production values that we offer for an experience, a live experience, has been upgraded throughout 2025 and into 2026 as well. We're always trying to think of ways with the student mentality to always better the experience for the live aspect of it, as well as the production side of it and post show editing and recording for the online viewers as well. So it's just continued growth. It's always exciting to see a brand start from scratch or ground up, and watch the foundation be established, and then the next tier and the next tier and the next tier. So we're always looking for ways to continue to grow while maintaining a certain standard of our product and having a certain standard of in-ring talent involved with the brand itself.
Absolutely. So this next question that I have for you will take us nicely into the next segues that we have when we talk about like WWE, AEW. Do you feel like indie wrestling and mainstream wrestling are closer now than they've ever been, or do you think there's still more work to do?
There's I can only speak for our general area, and that geographical area is Southern Ontario. And Southern Ontario has always been known as a hotbed for professional wrestling independent brands and companies. If you look at the GTA, there's a handful, more than a handful of brands that are continuously offering the talent work. And that's always a great thing. That's always a positive thing. It's when those companies start to close down and shut down and stuff like that that limits the talent that we have here, specifically and outside talent to come and experience what Southern Ontario Pro Wrestling has to offer. Now, on an independent level, I think it all varies on the major leagues in terms of the top tier promotions. If WWE, AEW, TNA are doing great, then it trickles down to the independent scene, and a lot more people will be coming out to shows to enjoy their local brand and the local talent that are performing on those events. I always find the trend is if the top tier promotions are not doing as great as they potentially could be, or we have seen them do, say for example, in the golden age in the mid '80s to the late '90s, into most recently when the bloodline was hot with the whole Sami Zayn and Roman Reigns and the Usos and all that stuff like that before it really branched out and got to the point where it is now. I think that was another hotbed period of time where the independent brands and the promotions were really benefiting from because new viewers were being attracted to the top tier programs, and now they're interested in coming out and paying for independent shows that are a lot closer and more accessible for them to access and see live. I think independent wrestling will always continue to grow, but again, I think it varies on how the top tier promotions are doing in order for them to be sustained and to continue to grow.
I think it also helps that we have signed talent that shows up on the indies more frequently now. Like obviously, Josh Alexander, who's an AEW guy, is a guy who's very known and very respected here in the Ontario independent scene, and all those good things. Like even if you take it internationally, you have guys like AJ Styles who came from at nothing at all and just kept working his way and just seemed like he was an absolute natural at this. So, and like I do think that we have a lot of those kind of talents in Ontario. I brought up AJ Styles. That's gonna lead me nicely into what we have to talk about here because we are going to talk a little bit about Monday Night Raw that's happening tomorrow night. AJ Styles is a big part of wrestling this week because not only is on Monday Night Raw tomorrow night, he is going to be on the AMC premiere for TNA this week. He is making his return in TNA this week, so that is huge. But tomorrow night, he's got another guy who's came up from the independent scene and made something of himself from absolutely nothing. That being the ring general Gunther. AJ Styles and Gunther going one on one tomorrow night on Monday Night Raw. I expect this to be a fantastic match. However, I am very surprised they did this early. Um, I thought that maybe this would have been at least a Saturday night's main event type of match. Maybe a Royal Rumble, but I can imagine they want both of these guys in the Rumble. Um, I'm very surprised they're doing this match on Raw. I'm I would assume Gunther would win this match. I would want to assume that they're not going to have Gunther lose, unless this is some sort of weird finish and it ends in a disqualification and someone interrupts. Because at the end of the day, it's a Monday Night Raw episode, so that can very well happen. But yeah, what is your take on the whole AJ Styles Gunther thing and Gunther potentially being the new Legend Killer?
So starting off with how this came about, obviously we know that John Cena just finished his the Time Is Now tour. The last Time Is Now tour, and obviously Gunther forcing him to tap out with a smile on his face. And obviously AJ Styles was a very, very respected opponent against John Cena, and that rubbed AJ Styles the wrong way. The way that Gunther was simply just mocking the situation, that he ended John Cena's career, even though we already knew it was going to be over after that match. The way that he did it was the key component of this whole situation. If he pinned him, okay, no big deal. But he actually forced John Cena, the man that says never give up, to actually give up and tap out. So with being able to take something as simple as that, rub it in someone's face, like AJ Styles, who truly respected and was a great opponent for John Cena, it irked him enough to the wrong way to get to a boiling point this quickly. And it doesn't surprise me that they're actually doing it on Raw and not saving it for a PLE or a Saturday night's main event, because they have competition that are throwing out main event matches weekly on AEW programming. They have more than enough deep talent pool that they can do this and still get away with it and still present something on a Saturday night main event or a PLE, without it being overly repetitive. And again, if it doesn't go with a clean finish in this situation between Gunther and AJ Styles, um, they can always run it back, as we've seen them do with other people or other feuds in the past. So I love the matchup. It's even better that it's a freebie, and again, they have to compete with. I personally think AEW is not on the level yet, obviously, due to the lack of time frame that they've been around, or the names that they have on their brand with WWE. So it's not competition in my opinion. But they are competing with what's in right now, and that's nonstop main event matches on weekly free TV versus having to wait for a pay-per-view to see this. And again, like I said, their talent pool is so deep. Why not? I like the matchup. I could see Gunther going over because, again, like you said, he is becoming the legend killer there. They've always pushed him strong, rightfully so. He's an unorthodox type of talent that you don't get to see on a day-to-day basis anymore. A throwback to when wrestling, in my opinion, was different. Something that I was more interested in watching was back then versus nowadays, because I feel like nowadays it's about flips and spots and dives and getting a reaction from the audience per move versus the story that's being told in the ring. And in my opinion, Gunther at this very moment is one of the best at telling the story in ring. Now, AJ Styles, you can look at him and say he does the flips, the dives, and stuff like that, but he's always done that before it was cool, and the in thing to do during a match. But he's still able to take those move sets and his form of attack and create a story out of it by being the sympathized babyface in the situation. So I'm all for it. I like it.
Absolutely. I kind of want to dial back on something you mentioned in that, and it's regarding the AEW. And so, like, there's going to be a lot of people that disagree with the fact that AEW is not competition. Did you want to elaborate on that just a little bit? And like, what do you think AEW has to do? What do you think they're doing right and wrong? What do they have to do to be on that level?
Tenure. Look at how long WWE's been running for. They've had a major head start. You just don't jump into running an organization or a company just because you have $1 billion at your disposal and compare yourself to being competitive or competition. WWE has a loyal fan base. In my opinion, AEW has a niche fan base. They took all those people that were thriving and rallying against WWE at that kind of time, and they created a pay-per-view specifically just to try to prove WWE wrong. Cool. That's awesome. It's great for the business. It's great for the talent. But there's no way, shape, or form, in my opinion, that someone can say that they are neck and neck in terms of competition with each other. It's not like WCW, where AEW was, running what is 84 weeks or 83 weeks, in a ratings war and beating them consistently. It's a different time of era as well, where you can't even compare the two in terms of ratings, because one's on a platform like Netflix, which is probably the largest watched platform in the world right now today. I could be wrong. Someone will correct me if I am wrong, but in my opinion, it is the most watched and paid for platform out there, and the most available and accessible platform out there for people to watch WWE programming. Even if you're not a wrestling fan, you still have access to it and can turn it on at any time versus whatever AEW is on. You know what I mean? So TBS, TNT, sure, cool, it's great, it's big, but it's not the same, in my opinion. And again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. And that's the beauty about wrestling too. You don't have to agree with what I say, and I don't have to agree with what you say. But as long as we have a mutual understanding on where we're coming from, and there's clarity on why I think that way, and I can understand why you think that the other way, maybe, by all means, it's respected, it's cool, and it's actually encouraged. Without difference, we don't have growth. So by all means, that's what I meant by not competition. And then the
Absolutely.
name values too. The name values, you can look at Roman Reigns. You can look at you know, AJ Styles. You can look at, you know, let's see, Cody Rhodes, even though he was with WWE, left, reinvented himself, came back, you know, he's a bigger star in WWE than he was in AEW, in my opinion, because the platform is bigger.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the thing is, and like, I've had people tell me that, like I've had people on the show actually tell me that, it's impossible to get me riled up and get a debate, because that's not what we do here at Kayfabe Central. We always say here that wrestling is very subjective and everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and that's completely fine. I think with the comparison with AEW and WWE, I think the IWC, as we say, is very they're very focused in on the actual wrestling nowadays more than the entertainment aspect. So, like we could have a terrible storyline between I don't know, I'm trying to think of two people. Like we could have a terrible storyline between like Kyle Fletcher and I don't know, Speedball Mike Bailey is the first person that came to mind. We could have a terrible storyline between them, but they can put on, and they have before, a fantastic match, and everybody would be like, oh man, this is great. And like that AEW fan base is going to be like, oh, WWE can never. But then you go on the WWE side of things where it's like they're more of that storytelling and entertainment aspect. Yeah, AEW has their storytelling and stuff. Like I'm not here saying that they don't tell stories or anything. But WWE is known for that. They're called World Wrestling Entertainment. Like I think people need to actually read the names of these companies. All Elite Wrestling, they're going to focus more on wrestling. World Wrestling Entertainment, they're going to focus more on the entertainment side of things. And that's just that. So I think it honestly just depends on preference at the end of the day. Because I do see a lot of times with the IWC, it's good matches that they look for. It's not like you don't really hear people talking about the story anymore at the end of the day. They're more of like, oh, that was a really good match. Like the example that I always use is Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, now Mercedes Moné, at WrestleMania 37. Terrible build up to that match. I didn't like the storyline leading up to that match, but the match itself at WrestleMania was fantastic, and that's what people talked about. The fact that, you know, it was the first WrestleMania main event with the two black women, and they put on a fantastic showing. It wasn't the storyline that people talked about. So I think that's why, particularly like I guess the younger audience would be more drawn to AEW just because they focus more on wrestling.
See, that's where I question it. You use the term wrestling. When I think of wrestling, I think of wrestlers, pro wrestler, pro wrestlers, in terms of a Bret Hart, a Shawn Michaels, that type of caliber of talent in ring. Not only are they performing move by move, and there's a reasoning behind why they're doing each specific move, but they're also telling a story with their move set, the move that they perform in the ring to do damage to their opponent. Now, again, this is just subjective. This is my personal opinion. When I would tune in or give AEW a shot in terms of watching a match or something like that, 95% of the time, I see setup moves. So what I mean by that is it's a lot more clear to me that the opponent is assisting the other guy so that he can perform a dive, a specific high flying move, or whatever it may be. And that's just my observation because I'm so used to a standard of someone like a Bret Hart that can hide it a lot better and make me actually believe that these two guys are in a fight versus a choreographed segment to make it look like they're fighting. Now, I don't know how many people, again, you mentioned IWC, I don't pay attention to it. Um, the online world of professional wrestling, to me, in my opinion, is very toxic. They don't allow room for opinion. It's either their way or the highway, in my mind, or in my opinion as well, I should say. So there's not a lot of reasoning or trying to understand each other's side of view on things. It's just like, no, this is it, this is it, this is it. Meanwhile, more than half of those people probably don't even watch or haven't even watched anything that a guy like Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels have done in the past. You watch Bret Hart versus Diesel. Did they do moonsaults? Did they do, 15 super kicks? Did they do any dives outside the ring? No, Bret Hart works a leg because he's a smaller guy. He's a more technical wrestler versus a big guy that could easily knock him out or destroy him with a few moves. So what do? You take out the big man's base. You take out his legs and you work that, you work that, you work that, you work that. And eventually you still come up short or your method of madness works. There's a story behind that, and each move counts for something else and leads into something different that doesn't, in my opinion, look like it's set up to be that way. It's just the way that the flow of the match is going. And that's I see it less now with WWE because a lot of the younger talent, in my opinion, don't know how to work like a Bret Hart or Shawn Michaels nowadays. And again, it's all about can I sing along with his song? Can I you know what I mean? Does he have a catchphrase that I can yell out there with him, like Paul Heyman even? Hi, my name is Paul Heyman. Everyone cheers it and everyone sees it, even though he's the bad guy. They just like to be a part of it. It's more an interactive show, so that's one thing I dislike about current modern day WWE product. And there's stuff with AEW that I don't like either. But at the end of the day, again, like you said, you pick your preference, you pick what you like watching. There's no right or wrong in this. Some people like, a more hardcore style, like back in the day, ECW style, that's now modernized. It's not right or wrong. It's wrestling. Know. But again, everyone will have a preference and everyone will have opinion. But again, as long as there's clarity on why you think that way, I think it's a lot more easier for people to swallow on why you like that brand versus this brand or that brand versus this brand or that style versus this style, whatever it may be.
Absolutely. Somebody who spent time in both AEW and WWE, and was a world champ in both companies is CM Punk, and is currently the world heavyweight champion on Monday Night Raw. He defeated Braun Breaker last week to retain the world title. I spoke about this quite a bit, in the past week. The fact that this was a terrible ending to this match. I feel like they made Braun Breaker look like a big dum dum in this match. When he lost to CM Punk last week. Um, it you had Bronson Reed, Logan Paul, Austin Theory all out there to help him, and it didn't work, and he still lost clean. So I don't think that makes Braun Breaker look that good. Is Braun Breaker going to be fine? Probably. He's probably going to end up winning that title at SummerSlam. I don't know the health on Seth Rollins, and if he's going to be cleared for WrestleMania, and if he is, I can imagine it's him and Braun Breaker at WrestleMania. Um, but it's weird because I knew Punk was going to win, but I felt like Braun Breaker should have won the title. I felt like that would have just made the most sense. But I'm thinking that they're going with Punk and Gunther at WrestleMania for the world title potentially. If not, maybe Punk and Brock for the world title. In that case, I'd probably rather see Punk and Gunther. But it's weird. What do you think of this whole world title situation between Punk and the Vision?
I watched that match and I watched it to see how they were going to end it. And it was chaos. Like you said, it didn't do Braun Breaker any favors. It technically didn't do CM Punk any favors. It didn't do the Vision any favors, nor did it do Paul Heyman any favors. And unfortunately, it buried the referee and it buried the commentating team, in my opinion. A lot of people don't think about the ref, but the ref's in the ring too. And when something like that occurs, did he get bumped? Did he fall to the outside, the ref?
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he did. He did the little slow
Yep.
topple over through the middle rope or whatever it was and laid there forever. Buried him. That's bad, in my opinion. But yeah, they could have done this a lot differently. Again, it's not my zoo, not my monkeys, but as a viewer, I'm looking at that main event, excited for it because I want to see Braun Breaker at least be very competitive. And if he's not going to go over, I don't want him seeing using every can worm out of the can in this match just to fail. If he was going to have that type of assistance, I actually would have preferred him going over and then them doing the rematch at the Rumble. I would have liked that. and then Punk can win it back, or they can really establish Braun Breaker by going over clean. But they did not do that. Punk again claiming to be the best in the world. Uh, it didn't do anyone any favors.
Yeah.
Like you said, are both okay coming out of it? Sure. But again, Braun Breaker, in my opinion, got the worst end out of this deal. Paul Heyman did too for backing a group that couldn't take out one guy. I know they had a little bit of assistance with the Usos and stuff like that, but it just wasn't what I was looking forward to as a viewer or a fan. And I wasn't really, you know, sure I was expecting it because it's WWE. They've done this in the past before, where they don't know how to really get one or the other over in the match or who's going to win. They normally end it in a double DQ at least because of all the interference and all the gimmicks in the situation. But they didn't even do that. So they kind of threw me a curveball with a clean finish or a finish, a 1, 2, 3 or whatever. Maybe I'm going to go to sleep, I believe. And yeah, it just didn't do anyone favors.
Yeah, and to follow that up tomorrow night on Raw, we have Penta and Dragon Lee taking on Austin Theory and Bronson Reed. They will put Penta with every single luchador except his brother. I don't know what it is about not having the Lucha Bros together. They're both healthy. They're both in the WWE. I know Ray Phoenix is on SmackDown, but when has a brand split ever mattered in WWE? It never has. And it's weird. Like it seems like they're intentionally keeping them apart at this point. Like, you had Penta, Dragon Lee, Rey Mysterio all out there last week, and you have all of them interacting with each other, and Ray Phoenix is losing to Trick Williams on SmackDown. It doesn't make any sense to me. Um, in terms of the outcome of this match, I I feel like I would be very harsh if I said I don't care, but I kind of just don't. Like I don't really
No.
care. Like you said, this doesn't do the Vision any favors after last week. They just look like a bunch of idiots after last week. Like you tried to help your buddy win the world title and you got chased off by a bunch of luchadors. That are like it doesn't, and that's no knock at like Penta, Dragon Lee, and Rey Mysterio. But I mean, like, come on, it doesn't really make any sense. Uh, and like I'm gonna assume Austin Theory and Bronson Reed win this match just to continue. And I feel like at this point they have to win. And I hate that because it feels like every single time the Vision have a match, I'm saying that exact same thing that they have to win. That shouldn't be the case. But especially after the loss last week, if they lose to Penta and Dragon Lee, who realistically aren't an actual tag team, it would be kind of weird. Or it's going to be a case of somebody gets involved and it's going to be a disqualification because, that's never happened on Monday Night Raw before.
Yeah, like you said, it's just not a match that I really care to see. And again, like with the Vision, you look at older stables and stuff like that, and there's plenty to choose from. But if you look at like a dominant stable, you look at the Four Horsemen, you look at the NWO, you look at DX, you look at the Bloodline when they originally started. They were all dominant. They weren't made to look like a fool for a very, very long time, in my opinion. And I think, you've lost that format with the Vision already. You haven't set them up for success, in my opinion, by doing this and treating them that way or making them look this way to the casual viewer. If I was a brand new viewer and I just finally tuned in and that was the first thing that I saw of the Vision, I'm like, well, these guys are no good. Who are these guys to be, in the main event? Like, you know what I mean? Like, these other guys are far above and beyond. Why do I care about the Vision? Why should they get another shot? I don't think they should, but because we know these guys, we know their talents, we know we know the talent, we know how they got created and everything like that. Even with Austin Theory revealing himself just casually in the audience, going up the stairs and stuff like that, it just to me just did not hit right from the start, and it kind of fell flat in my opinion, and it just there's no there's no there's no reason for me to invest in my emotion or care in this faction as of right now, even from the start to current day.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the Vision have just they keep going downhill. And Like, there's a lot of people that are still hopeful and confident in the vision going forward. I don't see how you can be, to be honest. Like, I really don't. I feel like Braun should have won that title. I feel like the longer you drag him winning the world title out, the more dumb he just looks. And we know WWE loves doing the thing of you can't win the title on the first try, but the second or third match that you have with that person, then you'll win the title. I find that like ridiculous. I don't like that. I don't like that style of booking. In some cases, it works. But in a lot of cases, it's just, okay, maybe the title should just change hands on the first going. Um, but we'll switch gears a little bit here because I do have the Monday Night Raw preview podcast tomorrow. Talking about things that I don't really care about. Let's talk about NXT because, man, holy hell, what a garbage New Year's Evil that was last week. Um, the match quality of New Year's Evil was fine, but they just reversed every decision they made last week with Tatum Paxley beating Izzy Dame, which was the right decision, and then they completely doubled back on that by having Izzy Dame win the Women's North American title on the same night from Thea Hale. So Izzy Dame is going to be on NXT. I I don't really know where they're gonna go with this. I can imagine maybe a rematch between her and Thea whenever the next NXT PLE is. I'm not too sure off the top of my head when it is. Um, and then the other thing that happened is Ava's going to address the vacant NXT championship that Obafemi vacated last week, which again is very weird. And if you wanted to do this, why did you go through the hustle of having him win back the title only for him to vacate it now? You could have just done this in the first reign. Like when they did it with Asuka, it made complete sense, right? They wanted her to go to the main roster with that still undefeated streak, and it set her up perfectly for her feud with like Charlotte Flair at WrestleMania. Of course, Charlotte Flair didn't, put Asuka over at the time, but with Asuka, it made sense. But this, it didn't. You had him lose to Ricky Saints, and then had him take the title back from Ricky Saints. You didn't want to give it to Javon Evans for some reason because Triple H made the call, says, "Oh, I want Javon on Raw." Fine, but then what was the problem with giving the title to Leon Slater? I didn't see a problem in giving the title to Leon Slater even just for a little bit. Maybe TNA could have gotten something out of this partnership. And Leon wins that NXT championship because if there's someone who deserves it, it is Leon Slater. I know he's the X Division champion, and I can imagine he's going to retain at Genesis later this week on Saturday in that triple threat match that he's in. But man, this is just weird. NXT is all over the place and it's chaos. I don't know if you've been keeping up too much with NXT. I can't blame you if you haven't. But yeah, what do you make of all this going on?
So to be honest, I haven't really kept up with NXT recently. Now, one thing I can say and reflect on is the fact that NXT used to make sense for developmental. There was a reason why somebody was being called up to the main roster. There was a process for them to be called up to the main roster. If you look at guys like Bobby Roode, Shinsuke, you look at anybody and everybody else previously, Adam Cole, like everybody that earned their way through NXT of dominating that brand. Asuka, they've all taken their turn on running and being the main focus of that brand, and they had some major impact and influence, and they earned the respect of the audience. Nowadays, it seems like anybody can be picked from NXT at any given time if they need somebody to be called up to the roster, but they're not even calling the right people, in my opinion. They're giving it to people that haven't won a championship. They're giving it to people that haven't made a name for themselves, and they're leaving the guys behind that have or are in the position to be called up, and it doesn't quite make sense to me. And I think that's an issue with a lot of people watching the brand and then translating it over to the main roster. The main roster used to be something that you looked forward to getting called up, and now it's like, oh, anyone can come up. Who's the surprise guy from NXT or who's really deserved it? Potentially a lot of these debuts might happen in the Royal Rumble that's coming up. Well, why do it now before the Rumble when they could have saved it for something bigger at the Rumble and be like, oh, so and so is now a part of Raw or SmackDown or whatever it may be, and have them earn that spot. So no, I haven't really kept with everything going on in NXT because like, I used to watch it avidly. I used to actually prefer NXT over the main roster brands, especially when I believe it was Adam Cole, Bobby Fish,
Yeah.
Kyle O'Reilly, those guys and stuff like that running the place. And they had a great feud with another group of baby faces, and then what you were looking forward for War Games. And, they were actually making stars down there in developmental, which was utilized for the next group of talent to come up. But nowadays, it just seems like they're trying to be their own brand. Of course, you see Ethan Page on there, which I love. Hamilton Boy, well deserved. Definitely the primary focus of that brand. He's still on there, right?
Yeah.
NXT.
Yeah.
Yep.
He is the
Uh,
North American champion at the moment.
okay. Yeah, I went to actually the last event that I went to, NXT was in Toronto when he actually won the championship, in that multi-man match.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And then, you mentioned Dobie Femi, he should be on the main roster. Why isn't he being called up? Obviously he is now, but like you said, the way that he did it by taking the title away from Ricky Saints, almost called him Starks, but Saints, could have just held on to the title. It doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what they do this year with NXT because something obviously needs to change. I know it transitioned when Triple H was running NXT. I think a lot of people feel that he was doing such a great job that they thought that would transition over to the two main rosters, Raw and SmackDown. And then when Shawn Michaels slid into NXT, they're like, oh, okay, one of Triple H's guys coming in there. We're looking forward to it. Shawn Michaels was a great talent in ring, but is he really doing a great job with NXT? And is Triple H doing a really good job with Raw and SmackDown right now? Sure, he was fired at the beginning, but is he falling flat? I think a lot of people might say yes on both counts.
Yeah, I think it's the size. Somebody brought this up to me, and it was a very good point. I think it's the size of the roster that Triple H is struggling with because with NXT Black and Gold, he had a decent sized roster, but it wasn't, main roster size. Now he's dealing with Raw and SmackDown rosters, and I think he's very much struggling on how to push certain people and when to push certain people. Like this Carmelo Hayes push, we've been waiting for like 2 years,
Yeah,
maybe longer than that. So like it took him a while to do that. Drew McIntyre winning the WWE Championship. Holy hell, how many times did they not give
I
him the
love
title?
that.
Yeah,
I
I'm
love that.
I'm ecstatic for Drew McIntyre, but it's about time. Like it's about time they put that title on him, and I'm
On a
so
on a
happy
few
that they
different
did.
accounts, and like in more than one way. Not just that he deserved it, and they've I'll say screwed him over with that opportunity to run as the main guy, but also Cody, I think a highly underrated babyface. And I think a lot of people felt that he was forced upon people to be that guy, but no, he actually carried the main roster brand with that championship as an amazing babyface run. He gains sympathy. He's just an amazing talent with psychology. He's great on the mic. He's great in ring. I think he really carried the brand. But I'm ready for a heel Cody, and I think a lot of people would also agree with that as well. That you don't want to see him as like dashing Cody Rhodes again. You don't want to go that far back. You don't want to see him as Stardust again, but not even heel like I'll say AEW heel Cody, but Bullet Club heel Cody
Yeah.
is when he was like in my opinion the best prime that he was possibly in as a heel, and I think he could bring that back to a modern day WWE and just be that complete, pardon my French, asshole, and throw it back in the fans' face kind of like I'm trying to think of a comparable situation, almost like a heel John Cena, but better run because
Yeah.
that was terrible too. But like I carried this company, I carried this brand, and all you guys did was want to see me lose. Without me, we wouldn't be here today, essentially, and throw it back on them where he could be like, you know what, screw you guys. I'm in it for myself now. I'm in it for my wife. Bring Brandy back. She's amazing on the mic and generates a lot of natural heat.
Yeah.
She's great at that. But that's sorry, I cut you off and went with it on that direction with Drew and Cody.
Yeah, no worries at all. We'll get into SmackDown a little bit later on, and we'll dive more into that. Um, we were talking about things that don't make sense and that just aren't good and whatever. The TNA International title is on the line on this episode of NXT. That is held by Stax. He's defending it against Shiloh Hill. Um, this title just went in the toilet so quickly. I mean, like this is no disrespect to Stacks. I think he's a good competitor. Obviously, we love the Corellis, we love Ariana Grace, we love Santino Marella as Canadians here. Um, but what was the point in taking this title off Steve Macklin? The only thing I can imagine is that Steve Macklin's on his way out of TNA. I don't know his contract situation, but I don't think he has much longer left. I think Steve Macklin might be just potentially heading over to AEW slash Ring of Honor with his wife Deonna Purrazzo. Um, and at this point, I can't blame him. I can't blame him if he were to do that because I don't understand what putting this title on Stacks does for TNA. Like it's so weird because you have the NXT Outlaws on TNA as a faction, that being Stacks, High Rise, and Lexus King. Kind of major players in a way on TNA programming, but you see them on NXT and they're nothing. They're jobbers almost on NXT, right? Where like Stacks now is like getting a little bit elevated. He's always been in that role, like alongside Tony D'Angelo, and now he's solo, of course. Um, but Shiloh Hill, out of all people, you have him defending this title against. The guy just got here. He just got here, and he's getting a TNA International title shot. If I was Steve Macklin, I'd be infuriated right now. I wouldn't be very happy if I was Steve Macklin right now.
To be honest, we just recently had Steve Macklin on our last show in October.
Yeah.
A true professional, thick and thin. Great communication, great in ring, great out of the ring, amazing talent to work with, amazing talent to communicate with, very respectful towards the business, is for the business. We're having the pleasure of personally working with him at Clash on the Coast that we did in October was amazing. So if I were him, he's definitely not mad. Um, he's professional, true and true, and he brought prestige to that TNA championship. I don't know if you remember, but he lost the title to Frankie
Yeah.
and then got it back right before my event in October there. Brought the championship, defended it against an Ontario great, Shane Saber, and then also defended it against Dijak, who it was a first time matchup, I believe. Yeah, first time matchup, one on one. They spent some time in NXT together, but never one on one. So that was cool. MLW and TNA going one on one there. But for Macklin to lose it to Frankie even threw me off. I know why I think they did it was to give Frankie the credit to say that he's a Grand Slam champion. Cool. By all means, Frankie's great. But then, like you said, the losing it to Stacks threw me off even more so because the last thing that I remember of Stacks is turning his back on Tony D'Angelo in the faction that he was in. That I haven't heard anything from him since. So do I get it? No. Do I personally have to? No. But I'm hoping there's a bigger vision or a bigger light at the end of the tunnel for everyone, general viewer to see what the actual goal is with all this and where Steve Macklin goes in the end of all this as well. Because my original thought was, okay, maybe they're going to bring Steve over to main roster as well. But given his situation, like you mentioned, his wife over on another brand, another program, different company. Potentially, he could be on his way over there as well for his final last couple runs. And we know that couples like to work together. It's tough being on the road, I'm sure, apart from each other. It's tough being in two different companies. We watched Ethan Page and Chelsea Green do it as well for a while, and now they're together, so it makes sense, right? We've just seen that in the past, so it makes sense. And in terms of no matter what Steve Macklin ends up doing, where he goes, whatever he does, definitely wish him the best because, like I said, a true professional thick and thin. As for the TNA International Championship, yeah, I'm just as confused as you are. I'm like, okay, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah, and it's like I have no doubt that Steve Macklin's like probably not mad, like you said.
Yeah.
And he's probably very calm about this. So I'm gonna be mad for him because
Okay.
this
Okay.
was this was
That's fair.
ridiculous. This was um like like you said when he lost it to Frankie, I was like, what? And then he won it back. I was like, okay. And then he loses to Stacks. I was like, okay. Like this is not good. Again, I don't see what Stacks does for this TNA International title. Like you just mentioned, Steve Macklin was actually defending it internationally. He was going to Norfolk County. He defended it against Shane Saber. I haven't seen Stacks go anywhere and defend this title. It's just been between NXT and TNA, and that's not international. That's national.
Yes.
That's not going all around.
That's
Um,
in-house.
so I think having it on Steve Macklin, he's probably going to end up winning the title back potentially if they don't let him go. And if he doesn't leave, because they do still have that feud going on, and they have Genesis coming up, and I can't remember if they've made it official for Genesis between him and Stacks. But I have to double check. Um, but it's funny we were talking about NXT. We just talked about TNA. But like there's nothing else really on NXT. Joe Hendry's taking on Dion Lennox in a no DQ match. Again, Joe Hendry should be on the main roster. I don't know why you've had him appear on SmackDown, but he's not actually a main roster superstar. We all love Joe Hendry. But man, and like I've been an advocate, and I'm like as much as I like Joe Hendry, I don't know how long the I Believe gimmick is going to last.
Thank you.
And I don't know if it's going to translate for that long on the main roster. Even right now, I kind of see it dialing down just a little bit. People are not as enthused by the, say his name and he appears kind of thing. So that's a little bit weird. But I think Joe Hendry will probably beat Dion Lennox, I assume, or if he's actually is going to the main roster, he'll lose to Dion Lennox, and this will be his last stint in NXT.
Yeah, I was actually talking with one of my good friends, about Joe Henry specifically and his gimmick. It's a short, in my opinion. I mean, he's been utilizing it for quite some time, and that's how he's really got over to the point where he is now. But again, there's an endpoint to everything, and if that's all you have, not saying that he's not good in ring or anything like that, but he doesn't do anything that stands out to me specifically that sets him apart from, or elevates him to a main player on the main rosters or any other brand, competing with like a CM Punk or, Roman Reigns or Brock Lesnar or whoever it may be, Cody Rhodes or Drew McIntyre. I can't see him at that level, based off of just what I currently see or have seen from him thus far. And again, that shtick, it only runs so far until people are like, "Well, my arms are tired. I can't do that anymore. I'm good with this." So unless maybe I'm wrong, but maybe unless something changes, oh, my thing just fell down. That's okay. The
That's
show's
fine.
over. Cut, cut. No, no, I'm just joking. So, but unless something changes, I can't see the longevity in it either. I hope he proves me wrong. Seems like a great guy. I know a lot of people that have worked with him, and he's actually gone to their promotion and performed and worked, and it's done really, really well. So I hope it stays for his sake and stuff like that, and it works for him. But as a viewer, I'm kind of over it. You said his name, and I kind of double checked to see if he was around, so he doesn't, intervene in my point here. But
Yeah.
I think I'm safe. He's not going out in the cold either today.
Yeah, no, I don't think I think Scotland's cold enough for him. So I think
Yeah.
he's gonna stick with that. Let's move over to some AEW stuff. We got a couple things lined up for Maximum Carnage. It's a TV special for Dynamite this week. We have MJF defending the AEW title against Bandito. I think this is going to be a fun match. I think MJF is going to retain in the end. There's no way Bandito's winning this title. I think MJF is going to hold this until All In, where he's, more than likely going to lose it to Osprey at Wembley Stadium. I think that's the plan that they have. But this should be a fun match. I don't really have much to add on to this between MJF and Bandito, other than it'll be a fun match, and MJF is going to cheat to win.
It's just a weekly show, right, that they're doing this on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I was gonna say it can't be a pay-per-view or anything like that because there's been no build really towards it. There's no reasoning behind how Bandito's become a number one contender. In my opinion, there's no build toward it or anything like that. Like you said, for the fans of that type of viewership and that presentation, that product, they should be a fun match because Bandito again is one of those guys that loves to bounce around and showcase, what he's capable of doing in terms of his athleticism. Where MJF is one of the guys that I think are far and few between in AEW that actually presents a psychology to his ring style and his method of attack against any opponent that he's in there with. So it is a little bit of a different style here, but we've seen MJF work with pretty much anybody and everybody they've thrown at him. And I think unless, with his mindset going into it and leading this match and setting the pace and tone, for me personally, again, I would be able to enjoy and watch it and be like, okay, you know what, MJF is obviously not assisting Bandito to perform these high flying attack moves or aerial moves or whatever it may be, or waiting on the outside for about 10 to 15 seconds for a suicide dive to conflict. I think there's a lot more to it there, and I'm not saying every AEW match is like that, but we see in WWE too. So just for anyone that's going to throw that back in my face. But I think any match that MJF is involved with is always usually pretty entertaining, and pretty good. So yeah, like you said, MJF will go over for sure. Definitely just won the championship, right? And people have been waiting for him to win the championship for quite some time. And he deserves it. So give him a good, healthy, long run, please.
We also have somebody that is targeting MJF in Kenny Omega, quote, returning to AEW, even though he was on Dynamite like 2 weeks ago. I have a promoter on the show today, so I'm going to ask you this question. Is there an actual promotion technique in saying a wrestler returns even though they were on the show like 2 weeks prior?
I didn't see him return, so I don't know what he returned in. Like, I don't know the capacity that he actually returned in. Can you give me a little bit of insight to the situation?
So he literally just had a Titantron segment where he
Okay.
told MJF that he was coming for the AEW World Title. That was like 2 weeks ago. He wasn't on Dynamite last week. And then apparently this week it's Kenny Omega returns, even though we just saw him.
You know what? I would utilize the same thing. If he's just on the Titantron and his face pops up, he spats off a few words, he lays down a challenge, whatever it may be, or a threat. In this instance, which I'm guessing he did since I didn't actually see it. Physically being there and being on a jumbo screen is totally different. So you know what? I utilize the word return too because that's going to get me to tune in, especially if I'm a Kenny Omega fan. I'd actually like to see him physically in the arena, inside that ring, in a situation that's confrontational, especially if he's gunning after the championship. That gets me excited, yeah. Especially if he's not physically been on any programming for quite some time. I would utilize the same technique too, for sure. It's like Hayden Backlund. I'll use an example actually. Hayden Backlund lost a match against our current champion, Pretty Ricky Wilde, in the stipulation. It was a rematch. So in the spring, in May, Ricky won the championship from Hayden Backlund and did his year-long run. They met again in August, Hell or High Water. The stipulation was that it's a no DQ match. So we're giving a relaxed rules type of situation because we want a true winner. And Hayden Backlund was so confident that he said if he lost this match, he would never return to Norfolk County. It's a big stipulation. Put it all on the line. He went all in on it essentially, and ended up losing. Now we had a fall event where I had some NWA Exodus Pro talent come onto the event and perform. Pretty Boy Smooth, also NWA talent as well. And they had a partner that was injured. That partner was scheduled to be EC3. EC3 was injured by Carson Drake, injured the knee with a chair at one of their last events late last year. So EC3 was unavailable to be there. Now, because it was a term or deemed Team NWA versus Team NCCW, NWA officials stepped in and they had Hayden Backlund come back. Even though he wasn't supposed to be in by NCCW terms and rules of the match that he previously had, he was not allowed to be back. That was one time that I quickly had to turn around and say, you know what? The return of Hayden Backlund.
Yeah.
He was just here in August. He wasn't supposed to be here in October, but now he is coming back. So I utilized the term return. And he came in, worked. Their team won, and we went out from there. So you know what? I've used that. I have used it. So
Yeah,
just to
that's
put it in
that you know
perspective.
that's a great way of explaining it actually, and I'm not so like hard-headed about that now because now that an actual promoter has explained it to me personally, I do kind of understand it. So you know what? Fair game. Um,
I look at it this way, Josh. If I pay a ticket and I think that if I go to a show and Kenny Omega appears on the jumbo screen, but he's not there physically in person, I don't get to see him live.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, you know what? Sure, I got to see him on the screen. That's cool. And then you find out that he's going to be live the next week or the next 2 weeks. It's like, I want to go see him live. You know what I mean? Like, damn, I should have held out. It's a lot different when you get to see them live versus on the screen, in my opinion. So yeah,
yeah,
by
absolutely.
all means, returns, use it. Fair game.
That's a great point. Um, we have the Babes of Wrath and Chris Statlander taking on the Triangle of Madness as well on the show. That is Tekla, Sky Blue, and Julia Hart. Um, the way I look at this, the Triangle of Madness should win this match. If they do want to set up the Sisters of Sin challenging for those tag titles, I think that Harley or Willow needs to get pinned. They could, really, go all for it and have like Tekla pin Statlander or something like that, but I highly doubt it. And like I'm not always a fan of like the champion being pinned, so often. Like she hasn't been pinned often, but like on just like a weekly show, I don't know if I'd have Statlander be pinned here. Um, I am going to lean towards the Triangle of Madness winning because I think that they need to. I think that they need to pick up a pin over either Willow or Harley to get in contention for those tag titles because that is a very easy way for them to be like, well, we beat you guys, so now we get a tag title shot. So, I think this will be a fun match. I like all six women in this match. I have been an advocate of saying that I think Julia Hart and Sky Blue need to improve a little bit in ring. Tekla is great, but there's still a lot of improvement with the Triangle of Madness to be made. But they do have a lot of potential, and I think they need to pick up the win here.
So I'm unfamiliar with the whole situation. Again, I do apologize for anyone listening. One thing I can say though is typically, standardly, if say for example, I'll use the one-on-one situation here. So if there's a champion involved in a tag match, it's a great way for the opposing person that's potentially being lined up to be number one contender to get that pin over the champion in a non-title match. It gives me a reason as a viewer to want to watch them now go one-on-one because it's now giving me the idea that it can be done versus, you know what? It's this person versus this person just randomly happening on a pay-per-view or a bigger event. I've witnessed them on weekly television get pinned by that opponent, that challenger. So what's not to say that it can't happen in a one-on-one match? So I like that as well. If they're going to do this with the tag team titles you said, or even the singles title that Statlander has.
Yeah,
She so even if anyone gets pinned in that situation and they're a champion and it's against potential contender, now I want to watch them go one-on-one or two-on-two,
yeah.
just because I have a reason to believe that it can be done. It's great booking. Easy booking too. Simple, simple, simple. Keep it simple. And then of course, one thing that I can really add on there too is what AEW, in my opinion, does really well, or one of the things that they do really well is booking their women's division. Some people will criticize the level of the talent that those women are at in ring versus other women in a different brand or company or anything like that. But one thing they do is promote their women's division. It's one thing that we're doing in 2026. Yes, I'll throw back to NCCW as well, because in February we are hosting an NCCW Women's Championship one-day tournament. We're really featuring and highlighting the women that are available to work this event. And we want people to know, it's been going on for years that, equality is key. The women's division are, just as equal as the men's division in most cases, no matter what brand you're watching and stuff like that. But we're actually giving them the first ever main event that they've had within the NCCW, February 22nd at No Man's Land. It's a play on play words with the event name. Sure, there's men wrestling on the event, but No Man's Land referring to this is a highlight, this is a featured event for the women. that have been wrestling with us or for our brand since day one, and we're giving them an opportunity to main event and win a women's championship. Going back to AEW, they do this very well. They extremely do, and I think it took WWE a long, long, long time to get there. But I think one of the things that AEW did right off the hop was emphasize how important the women's division was, even though some people might criticize potentially the talent level, where that is. But they have a heavy female roster, which is great. They showcase it weekly and on big events, which is amazing too. So that's one of the things that I think that AEW does really well. And point proven again, they're highlighting the women that are, they're trying to get over and grow to a certain standard and level, and they want people to, their audience to recognize this. So it's great.
Absolutely. Um, we also have Darby Allin taking on Pac. This has been a very heated feud and a feud that's gone on for quite some time now, and I'm kind of hoping that this is the end of it. Based on what Darby Allin has been saying, it seems like it may be, unless they have a different ending in mind here. This is not going to end with Darby Allin on the losing side. This feud is going to end when Darby Allin beats Pac. So obviously Darby Allin has been feuding with the Death Riders as a whole, and I'd assume Darby wins this match. I kind of just want this feud to end and Darby Allin to do something new. They're both fantastic competitors, Pac and Darby Allin. I like them both. But I think it's time we get something new for them. We need to have the distinction between the Death Riders eventually kick Moxley out so he can turn babyface. Um, and then Darby Allin does whatever Darby Allin wants to do, whatever Tony Khan wants Darby Allin to do afterwards. But I think this should be the end of the feud, and Darby Allin should win this match.
Two amazing competitors again. Two different styles too. Yeah, they're both risque in terms of their abilities, but I think Pac brings a more technical, high flying style to this match, where we all know Darby Allin is pretty risque and reckless when it comes to his style, which makes it really believable. But the poor kid, he puts his body through hell. And it's every time he gets in the ring and stuff like that, it's ooh.
Yeah.
Please just try to contain yourself on that rambunctiousness and that over energized mentality, and that setting of pace that he has, and the recklessness is crazy. But it's highly entertaining at the same time. So I think it's going to be a great match. I don't know how far involved. Like, has Darby Allin faced John Moxley? Please, again, I don't watch the brand as much as you would, so. Have they gone one on one? Is he like going through Pac to get to somewhere, or is this like
Uh,
the end boss? Do you think for him and the Death Riders?
yeah, so he's already gone one on one with Moxley. So that feud is
Just
over
one
with.
time?
It was more than I think it was like
Okay.
three times actually they
Oh,
went
okay.
one on
Oh,
one.
well, I'm terrible.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
so
apologize.
they finished that feud. Moxley's now the Continental Champion. Um, Pac is the final roadblock for Darby Allin in the Death Riders. And he's made that very clear that the one person that he needs to beat to finally put the Death Riders to rest is Pac. And he's looking to do that on Dynamite Maximum Carnage. So it'll be a fun match.
Which is confusing to me. Say if I'm watching this for the first time, it gives me the idea that Pac is the guy leading the charge for the Death Riders. When I think it is actually John Moxley that
It
is
is.
actually technically the leader, right? So you think that, typical style of booking would be him to work his way through the cronies and then get to Moxley, right? It sounds like they've done this in reverse. And again, which creates a lot of confusion for me, especially with someone that hasn't religiously watched the program. If I'm just jumping in and I'm like, okay, it's Pac and Darby Allin. Okay, Pac must be the leader of the Death Riders. Perfect. I fully understand. And then you get told something completely different. It's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. Why is he beating one of the cronies for the final feud to end it off with the faction when it should be, in my opinion, the leader of the faction is your goal rather than going through him first or competing with him first. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, especially now you saying Moxley has a championship, one of the many in either brand, has a championship. Why not have it Allen Moxley for the championship, and then Allen go over and grab that title. You know what I mean? So that leaves me scratching my head a little bit. But again, not judging, not saying it's right or wrong. It's just from my perspective as an outsider to the brand and the product itself, leaves me a little bit confused on why it would be Pac and Allen, not Pac and Moxley.
I think that the route that they're going with is Moxley slowly turning babyface, and Pac is going to end up being the de facto leader of the Death Riders, whether it be Pac or Marina Shafir or Claudio Castagnoli, aka Cesaro. Um, it's looking like it may be Pac, and I think he fits that very well. And I think it might end up being him that's like leading the charge into taking Moxley out of the Death Riders potentially. Um, because he just has that, that evilness and, aggression to him, to lead a group like the Death Riders. So I think that's mainly what they're going with. And Pac is somebody who, tortured Darby Allin through the past few months. He's assisted with actually not assisted. He Pac threw Darby Allin through I believe it was a flaming table like a month or so ago. So there's a lot of built-in rivalry there. It wasn't just Darby Allin feuding with John Moxley. It was Darby Allin feuding with the entire Death Riders. And so he's taking them out one by one, and Pac is the final roadblock for him. So for me, I kind of understand that, and I'm okay with, him going after Pac one more time, as long as this is the end of it, because I don't see where else you could take this.
So if that's a situation and they're building Pac to being the leader of the Death Riders, and they're looking at John Moxley potentially turning babyface to flip him on that side of the board, I would still have it Moxley as the final guy because Darby Allin can then beat Moxley. And then the Death Riders say, you know what, you're not a leader. You're not the right fit for this. You've gone soft. Mr. Moxley, the blood, guts, and gore kind of guy that came into AEW was no longer there. That fire is out. You're gone now. And Pac could take over that. Now, as is, if Pac loses, how does that look for the new leader to falling short to Darby Allin and not getting the job done, but still wanting the faction to look strong? That's where it confuses me. You have to have Pac
That
go over then.
that is a very good point and a very good analysis there, because I actually didn't think of it that way. But yeah, I mean, like, absolutely. Like, the only because I just went into this thinking that, okay, Darby Allin's gonna win, it doesn't matter.
You're
Um
probably
and
right. You're probably
and
right.
and like it's weird because sometimes like stuff like that doesn't even matter. Like Pac could lose and they'll still be like, oh, he's now the de facto leader of the Death Riders, and the loss to Darby Allin in the grand scheme of things doesn't actually matter. And Darby Allin is now going to challenge for like the national championship or something like that, right? So it's like, in the grand scheme of things, is this going to matter in a few months? Probably not. Either way, it'll be a fun match, and hopefully this feud comes to an end. I hope that they don't drag this out to their next pay-per-view, because that's still some time away, which is Revolution, I believe. So hopefully they don't drag it out until then. Um, That's all we got for AEW. Let's move on to some TNA stuff. We talked quite a bit about TNA already, so we'll dive into some other things. Frankie Kazarian, who we mentioned earlier, is defending the TNA World Title against Mike Santana. We have Nick Nemeth looming in the background as well with the Call Your Shot Gauntlet Cup. We saw that unfold on last week's episode of Impact. So the way I'm looking at this is Santana wins the world title from Kazarian, and then we have Santana and Nemeth at I almost said WrestleMania. God, imagine at TNA Genesis this Saturday. I still have a problem with how TNA did this, because you have the AMC debut on Thursday. Special start time, by the way, for anybody that doesn't know. They are starting it at 9 o'clock now, so it's going from 9 to 11. So they have that on Thursday, and then just 2 days later, they have their pay-per-view, TNA Genesis. If it was me, and you're also a promoter, you can probably back this up and see like what you would personally do. If it was me, I would have a TV special on Thursday for that AMC debut, maybe a Genesis TV special, and you can have all your matches that you need to have on that AMC debut because you want that AMC debut to mean something, right? This is a new era in TNA, right? It's not just because who's to say Santana, wins the title, doesn't win the title on Thursday, but then loses it to Nemeth on Saturday. That I mean, it's a very good chance that happens. I don't think it will, but it's a good chance that happens. And I think that they should have just done a TV special on Thursday instead of doing the AMC debut on Thursday and then the pay-per-view on Saturday.
That's a tough one because yeah, you want people to tune into the pay-per-view for good reason. It's pay-per-view. It's not a freebie. So if you spoil everything on the freebie, which is still a big deal because like you said, it's a new era, as Triple H would say. For the brand and company, you have to make something special happen there as well to set the tone and the pace that it is indeed a new era. And then, of course, you have the pay-per-view a couple days later. You still have to offer something worth investing in and paying for to get me to watch it there. Now, I'll start with Mike Santana. Terrible, in my opinion, what they did to him. They gave this heartfelt story of him battling for that championship where it only be taken away like the next match or whatever it was. Like it was just a blink of an eye and he already lost the championship. They give it to Frankie. My assumption is because, again, I mentioned it earlier, alluded to it earlier, same with the international championship. They got to hit Frankie to check off all the boxes before he finally hangs it up. And he's a respectable guy in the TNA locker room too. Great tenure and everything like that as well. So, but what they did to Mike Santana to me was robbery. Building him back up, I think will take some time. Even if he wins the championship, say on the debut show or at the pay-per-view, they can kind of work around not having that one-on-one confrontation and then making sure the match actually takes place at the pay-per-view for the championship. And then again, like you said, they got Nemeth in the background, lingering with that Call Your Shot title opportunity. I hope they save it and they don't spoil Santana's moment again. So, it's a tough call. As a large scale company and a major company, you have two major shows coming up, and you got to make sure that both give the audience, bang for their buck, not just in terms of financial value or money spending value, but again, time is money. So if I'm in the audience, or if I'm a fan watching at home on TV, and it takes 2 hours for your TV programming, but then you have a pay-per-view that's 3 hours to 4 hours, that coming weekend as well. And now I'm donating 5 or 6 hours of my time. And time's more valuable than a dollar value. So, and you have a lot of other product to choose from, So if I'm watching that, and if I'm booking that, you have to be very, very careful, walk a fine line without giving anything away or making it seem like this is going to happen on the pay-per-view based off of the big premiere show. Because again, you're still wanting people to pay for that event. So it's a tough call.
You just gave me a thought of something that they could do, and it's giving me nightmares already. And I really hope that TNA is not this stubborn. And that's Santana beats Kazarian for the TNA World title on the AMC debut. Nick Nemeth cashes in and wins that title from Santana, only to set up the title match at Genesis 2 days later between Nemeth and Santana.
That's a
I
possibility.
I really, really hope they don't do that because that is the worst possible thing. Because what do you do in that situation? Do you give Santana back the title and Nemeth only has a 2 day reign? Or do you keep the title on Nemeth and you completely screw over Santana? Eh, I completely agree with you. I don't like what they did with Santana, and it's weird because I like the person they gave the title to in Frankie Kazarian, and I think he's fantastic. But man, like again, like it goes back to what WWE did to Daniel Bryan. And I think this is very similar because Daniel Bryan had this feel good story of him winning the title at WrestleMania 30. And then what came after that was bad. It was terrible. And they had him relinquish the title in like a few months. Um, and it just wasn't. And I think that had to do with like real life injuries to Daniel Bryan as well.
Yeah.
But it's still the same case. Like, they really did Mike Santana wrong here, and I think Mike Santana should still be the TNA World Champion. But that is not the case. I really hope they don't do that cash in thing with Nemeth and Santana.
See, that I don't mind because it's not going to hurt Nemeth to lose the championship on the pay-per-view. He can be the again, I'm swearing and stuff like that. He could be the shithead heel that takes advantage of a great opportunity by calling a shot after Mike Santana wins it again. Santana again gets his heart broken because that first championship win was a very emotional moment. Babies were thrown in the air. We waited for, that to take place, and I think a lot of speculation was that he was going to win the championship. His family, I believe, were in the ring, daughter and everything, tears coming down. Like I said, babies in the air, everything was just grand and great. And then Frankie to come in and take the title. It would actually, I wouldn't mind it actually if he did beat Frankie, won the championship. Nemeth calls the shot, like you said, and then go on to the pay-per-view. And then that time, Santana could win the championship back, be an already three-time TNA heavyweight champion, and then he can have a long, healthy run after that.
Yeah, I still think
I
that
would
they
I would pay. I would pay to watch Santana win it back.
That's fair. I still feel like they booked themselves into a corner by having two Call Your Shot Gauntlet winners this year or this past year. I didn't understand that decision at all. And it was just it wasn't good, and I think they booked themselves into a corner. So, whatever we do get with this cash in situation with Nick Nemeth, is it going to be great? Probably not, but they got to find a way out of this corner somehow. So, it is very possible that they do that cash in on the AMC debut.
I will say this: I'm guilty of using like the cash in. I'm over it though. I never want to see another cash in again, and I'll tell you why. It's just way overdone now. Everybody has an opportunity to cash in. Yes, it builds towards the next. It segues into another feud and stuff like that, and it leaves the babyface champion in a situation where he can say, "Well, you never actually truly beat me. You took advantage of a situation." By all means, I get that. The psychology is there. It's great. The understanding is there. It's great. But when it's overused in every brand, every promotion, and they call it something different, it's all the same thing over and over and over again. Myself included, we utilized it with an OG Cup tournament. We had the winner hang on to it for about a year. But what I ended up doing, or not, what happened, I should say, is that I fell victim. Again, I put myself. So what I ended up doing was put myself in a situation where we were having a championship tournament to crown our first ever tag team champions. Now, the gentleman by the name of Abu, who's a member of a faction that's very successful called KPK, won this OG Cup tournament and the case to cash in. He didn't get to cash in the singles run though. What he did was he waited for an opportunity after they were banned from the tag team tournament after eliminating a team that they were supposed to face prior to their match. They're not rewarded for their crude behavior and eliminating a team called PME in the parking lot from being able to compete and carry on in the tournament. We were not going to give them a bye. So they thought they were going to get a bye into the finals. We had them removed from the venue, disqualified from the tournament, and that tag team match that we celebrated in there was technically a semifinals matchup turned into the championship match. Now, the great team and young team, hungry team of Generation Now went on to beat another amazing team, Dynasty, for the tag team championships. And what happened was instead of a singles cash in, KPK utilized that case to cash in, stuck back into the building somehow. We're still trying to figure it out how they got back in, but they used that case to walk a tag team championship goal. So they're very clever on their end because, again, it's nothing I can do in terms of the booking. They utilized the case properly despite being ejected from the building. They found a loophole in a scenario that benefited them, and I've never seen a singles cash in or a cash in be utilized for tag team championship gold before. So they were very smart to do that. But in terms of the call your shot, money in the banks, this and that, I'm over it. Especially being put in that situation where a great tag team like Generation Now earned it, and then for KBK to swoop in, utilize that case, and walk away with tag team championship gold. Never see it in NCCW again.
Yeah, I think that out of like the big companies and promotions, the only place that should be doing cash-ins is the WWE. That's their thing. I hate when AEW does it. I don't really like it when TNA does it as well. Even though they are partnered with WWE, it's still a WWE thing. Let that be a WWE thing. And like I like the Money in the Bank stuff, but like you said, it's overdone like everywhere you go. And like it is what it is. I guess it's a very like I don't want to say easy way to get a world title on somebody, but it's a very popular method of getting a world title on somebody in like different promotions and companies. Um, Speaking of titles and whatnot, we have a lot of motion for the WWE Undisputed Championship that will lead us into SmackDown, our final segue of this podcast. We got a tournament going on SmackDown. We have a Undisputed WWE title tournament to determine who is going to face Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble. So the matches that we have announced, these are all happening on SmackDown this week. We have Randy Orton taking on The Miz, Matt Cardona taking on Trick Williams, Damian Priest taking on Solo Sikoa, and Sami Zayn taking on Ilya Dragunov. Now, I look at this bracket and I'm like, okay, this seems like a very predictable four that is going to end up because the winners are going to be in a fatal four way at Saturday night's main event.
Okay.
And that is happening in Montreal. I will be there. So if anybody is going to also be there, feel free to say hi to me if you see me. But so that a fatal four way is going to happen between four winners, and that person is going to be the number one contender. I am going to say it's Randy Orton, Trick Williams, Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn who advance to the Fatal Four Way, unless they want to throw a surprise in there. Like maybe it's a possibility Solo Sikoa beats Priest. I think that's more of the one that can go either way. But those are the four that I'm going with because those are the four that have been more involved in the WWE title picture recently.
There's no way you see Cardona going over, eh?
I don't. I don't because I feel like he's just a guy that's there um to put on some decent matches and he'll get a WWE title shot once in a while, but he's gonna be the guy that has the WWE title shot but can't win the big one. So I don't see him advancing.
Okay, no, that's fair enough for sure. I just think with all this excitement that he brings, returning, people were really hyped up for it when he came back. He still has Zack Ryder, and then the second time around when he came back, originally it sounded like Zack Ryder's music, and then the next thing you know, the music switched over, and it was actually Matt Cardona.
Yeah.
His little interaction with Cody, saying that he's there, just hey. Hey champ, how's it going? Long time, good to see you and stuff like that. But just to let you know, I'm here for that championship this time around. Obviously, with the Fatal Four Way taking place in Montreal, now that I know that, obviously there's a clear cut potential winner there with Sami Zayn being from Montreal, so it might be a dead giveaway, but otherwise they might throw in some nice surprise as well. Um, Priest has been there. Solo Sokola's had a shot. You're looking at yeah, Gunther's not a part of this, is he?
No, Gunther is on Raw, so he
He's not
has
okay, there we
nothing
go.
to. Yeah.
I never remember who's on which brand and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
that's
I'm
fair.
glad you
You know
do,
what?
because someone's
Sometimes I
here to
don't
run the
either.
show. It's all good. Thank you for correcting me on this, or keeping me in track. But you mentioned, yeah, Sammy, Priest. We can see, yeah. And then what were the other two names that you said? Sorry, Josh.
We got Cardona, Trick Williams, Randy Orton, and The Miz.
Brandy. And who is? Oh, it's Trick and Cardona, right?
Yeah, so
I can see
Cardona
Trick go. I can see Trick going on.
yeah, he just got called up to the main roster. I don't think that they're gonna have him lose. They just had him confront Randy Orton. I can imagine they're gonna be
That
throwing
might
that
spill
fatal
out.
four way.
Then
Yeah.
they could cost each other that fatal four-way match for the other two to take the one of the other two to take the pin, which would set up the February PLE with Orton and Trick to get Trick over, since I'm assuming Randy's potentially slowly on his way out, being that locker room leader and the guidance and everything like that. It's a great way to get Trick over if Trick could pull one over Randy Orton. If not, at least cost him the opportunity to go face the champion at Royal Rumble in that fatal four way if they both advance. So that's kind of exciting. That's one thing that WWE's always done is they've always continued the next guy up, the next guy up, the next guy up. They're not stagnant. You know, they haven't been stagnant for a long time on top guys, and they're always looking for the next bright star to take over the next role or that role of being the main event player when the next guy, leaves. So it's just a formula that's always worked for them, and they've done it very, very well. And now it's an opportunity for Trick. You're looking at other guys like Priest is what, 40, Cardona's like 40, Sammy's 40.
It's the prime
Uh,
in WWE.
yeah, yeah. Like you're on your way out. But again, with it being Montreal, and they were doing something with Sammy never winning the big one. He got cut off a couple of times on his road to potentially winning the big one. You know, but with it being in Montreal, I could see him either getting screwed or winning that match if he makes it to the next round of the finals.
Yeah, I've been saying
He
that
has
I
to be
think
there, right?
yeah, I've been saying that I think Sami Zayn's gonna compete for the world title at the Royal Rumble, and I think this is just their way of getting him there. It's in Montreal, like you said. It's gonna be very hard to see Sami Zayn losing. I mean, it hasn't stopped WWE before, especially when it pertains to Montreal. But that's a conversation for a whole another day. But I would assume and imagine that Sami Zayn wins this entire thing and goes on to the Royal Rumble.
Well, good point though. WWE has a history of letting the hometown guy lose or woman lose. You normally you hear talent on podcasts and like shoot interviews and stuff like that. Always dread going to their hometown because they knew they were not going to get over, especially if they were leading to something else. So you want the heel or whoever to get the most heat, and there's no better way to have them beat or cheat the hometown hero out of an opportunity like this. So maybe it's not Sammy. Maybe that's what you just want you to think. And again, they have a really great formula that continues to work to this day. That's why they're the most successful company in the world at doing what they do. And, we just have to wait and see, I guess. But yeah, ultimately, Sammy has to be in the match. And like you said, Trick Williams being the bright future star out of the whole bunch has to be in that match too if we're going to really look at him being a top player in the game, which they presented him as moving up to this point.
Absolutely. But that is Friday Night SmackDown, and that is the Kayfabe recap. Just to throw a little thing out there, the Bills are advancing in the next round. They just got past the Jaguars by 3 points. So I got that prediction right. I picked the Bills because I felt like that was a must win for Josh Allen. If he went out in the first round, it would be bad.
I'm not,
And
I'm not doing RVD here. I'm a New York. I'm a New York. A proud. I don't have my paper bag with me, but I'm a proud New York Jets fan. So hearing the Bills won and advanced, ugh, leaves a puny vibe in my tummy here.
Yeah, you know what? Fair enough. I have to wait till tomorrow for my Steelers to play. Hopefully they can get past the first round and we can make some noise in the playoffs as well. I
Aaron
think we
Rodgers.
can. I think we can. I think we'll at least get past the first round. But that has been the Kayfabe recap, everybody. Adam, thank you so much for joining me here on the Kayfabe recap and taking time out of your afternoon to do this. Where can these people find you, and where can they find NCCW?
So first of all, Josh, thank you very much for having me on here talking about something that we're both passionate about, something that we both love to talk about, and that is the sport of pro wrestling. No matter which type of brand you like, no matter what type of presentation, like style, whatever it may be, we're all in this together. And without us fans and without our contribution, people like yourself running these types of shows and stuff like that, things could be a lot different for the sport of pro wrestling. So thank you very much for having me on. Anytime, I love to do it. Of course, with Norfolk County Championship Wrestling, NCCW, the fourth predominant sport wrestling letters in Norfolk County. You can find us at Norfolk Wrestling on Instagram, where you can keep up to date with all our bookings, all our events, all our news, all the talent coming into the wonderful community that we host in. February 22nd, No Man's Land. We crown our first ever women's champion, a six women tournament all in one day, three first round matchups, finalizing and main eventing for the first time ever for the NCCW Women's Champion in a triple threat match. We have our Top tag teams on board. We have special guests coming in from Exodus Pro Wrestling, a company that I love and enjoy watching and keeping up to date with across Lake Erie. They're just over in Cleveland, Ohio. And again, shout out to them guys. I don't know if you can see that, but yeah, by all means, great crew over there, great brand, what they're doing. But of course, going back to NCCW, look forward, grab your tickets if you're in the area, Eventbrite online or your local convenience, Max Convenience, indeed the king of convenience, downtown Simcoe to grab your hard copy tickets today as they are going fast. February 22nd, No Man's Land, Simcoe, Ontario, Royal Canadian Legion.
Sweet. Obviously, you guys know where to find me. All the links are down in the description, and all that good stuff. Once again, thank you, Adam, for joining me on the Kayfabe recap. Maybe we'll make this happen again someday. This was a lot of fun. So yeah, and if you guys also let me know in the comments, let us know in the comments, what you thought, whether you agree or disagree with anything we said. I always love hearing you guys' opinions, so make sure you guys drop those comments, whether you're listening on YouTube or Spotify. I will see you guys tomorrow when I cover Monday Night Raw on the preview and on the post show review. And until then, I will see you guys there. Take it easy.